fund. It's in AI, and this is going to be the next NVIDIA if you invest in it. Do you ever get any political pressure like that, or are you isolated from that?
When they set up the organization, and I think this is one of the real, secret sauces of the organization when they set it up, is they set it up to be arm's length. And they wanted an independent asset manager that really just focused on maximizing return without undue risk of loss. And now we ultimately will be accountable to the stewards, which will be the finance ministers across the country. But we have, in between that, we have a very professional board of directors. And I will say in the 16 plus years that I've been there, I've never had a situation like that. Now, I travel all over the world, and governments all over the world want you to invest more in their country. And I think people are just doing their job when they ask you to invest more in their country. But I've never had a case, as you described, saying, can you please invest in this? It's just remarkable how FOMO and that fear of missing out can really drive people into things that they may not really understand that well.
The business landscape is increasingly complex, with evolving consumer preferences, emerging technologies, economic uncertainty, and the pressure to decarbonize. Our clients need support to stay competitive and grow their operations when they choose to. At City Commercial Bank, our expertise, reach, and culture of innovation has made us the bank of choice for successful, fast-growing companies.
Taking an active approach to investing means focusing on the needs of our clients. We bring a global perspective and insights grounded in Asia, where we've been for nearly 30 years. And we optimize results by identifying distinctive solutions today while gearing for tomorrow's growth. Principal, actively invested.
But also balancing which countries get what and trying to satisfy all stakeholders. So we got through that with a lot of difficulty and lessons that we learned. And that is why we need to have, going forward, like a pandemic accords and strategy that the WHO is working on. And I hope that all the countries sign up to it and adhere to it, because otherwise we'll be in exactly the same situation as we were then.
So do you ever go to cocktail parties and you introduce yourself and you say, I'm the head of the CPBIB, and people say to you, what can I do with my money? That you ever get asked for that kind of investment advice?
Yeah, I occasionally do, and my response is always that you should go hire a certified financial planner.
Okay, so you don't give free investment advice.
I don't give investment advice.
What do you think is the most common mistake the average investor makes?
Yeah.
Your observation over many years now as an investment professional, what would you say is the most common mistake either average investors make or professional investors make?
I think probably the one area that I continue to be surprised by, and I'm probably guilty of it, is FOMO. You mentioned crypto, you mentioned AI. It's just remarkable how FOMO and that fear of missing out can really drive people into things that they may not really understand that well.
FOMO, for those who don't know, means fear of missing out.
Correct.
Which is a big fear that people have, that somebody else is going to make more money than they are.
Correct.
And they should jump in, and they usually jump in when it's too late.
They usually jump in as too late, yeah. And you see it with very sophisticated investors.
So what's the best investment advice you ever received from anybody when you got into this business?
Yeah, best investment, and I think it's probably very consistent with CPP investments, and that is to really continue to focus on the long term. Markets cycle, markets will go up and down, and just stay invested. Don't try to time the markets, just give the opportunity to be wrong twice, and just stay invested.
So somebody came to you at a cocktail party, the famous cocktail party, and said, look, I really don't know anything about investments. I have an extra $100,000. What should I do with it? What would you tell them to do?
Same thing, to go talk to a certified financial planner.
Okay. Now, some certified financial investment professionals would say, look, you can't beat the market.
Yeah.
Put your money in index funds.
Yeah.
Why doesn't the Canadian Pension Plan Investment Board just index everything, and that way you won't be subject to any criticism saying you didn't do a good job, you just reflect the market? Why not just do that?
Yeah. And this is, I think we're in a period right now with the Magnificent Seven and a few stocks really dominating the markets, that we're big believers in diversification. So I get back to who we are and what we're solving for. And we're not a wealth maximization vehicle. We're a pension plan. And we're ultimately here to make sure that that pension promise is met. We're ultimately here to make sure that when money comes off people's paychecks, and 30 years later, 35 years later, that they receive the pension, that liability in the future is met. And it's not easy to do that. Many countries around the world won't be able to meet this pension promise. Canada's done, I think, a remarkable job in putting in place a structure where it's sustainable for at least 75 more years. So to do that, we're big believers that over the long run, you need to have a diversified portfolio. You need to invest in lots of different geographies around the world and in lots of different asset classes, some that have higher return expectations like private equity, and some like fixed income where it'll be a little bit more steady. And over the long run, based on what we're solving for and what we're actually trying to do, that is the low-risk way to deliver on our mandate.
What would you like people to know about CPBIB? People all over the world are going to watch this, and they're going to say, Canada has a better model than we have, or Canada doesn't have as good a model as we have. So what would you like people to know about the CPBIB model, and why do you think it's actually a pretty good model?
I think, first of all, the performance. That CPP Investments is one of the highest performing institutional investors in the world. As I mentioned, the returns over the past 10 years have been 9.2% on an annual basis, CAGR, and it's very, very good returns. I think the other thing that is really important about CPP Investments is it is a great example of when policymakers can come together and solve a problem, and solve a public problem with a private solution, and create CPP Investments to prevent a problem that's 20, 25 years out. And to date, as I said, it has been successful, with 2/3 of the capital being from investment income and only a third from contributions. I just think it's an amazing example of how things can work.
In your case, you're obviously an intelligent, well-informed person, a good investor. Why don't you go into the Canadian government and become a finance minister? Have you ever thought of that?
I took on this role at the beginning of 2021. And for me, this is my destination role.
You're going to retire at 85 or 90, or you're going to keep doing this forever, right?
I work at the President's Board, and I will do it as long as they let me do it.
Demand for greater capacity and efficiency is putting pressure on inefficient port infrastructure. Australia's Victoria International Container Terminal is the benchmark for modern ports. Its fully automated terminal streamlines the flow of cargo in and out of the port. And this has boosted capacity at the Port of Melbourne. Automation and smart technologies are future-proofing maritime transport, making ports greener, faster, and more productive.
The business landscape is increasingly complex, with evolving consumer preferences, emerging technologies, economic uncertainty, and the pressure to decarbonize. Our clients need support to stay competitive and grow their operations when they choose to. At City Commercial Bank, our expertise, reach, and culture of innovation has made us the bank of choice for successful, fast-growing companies.
Taking an active approach to investing means focusing on the needs of our clients. We bring a global perspective and insights grounded in Asia, where we've been for nearly 30 years. And we optimize results by identifying distinctive solutions today while gearing for tomorrow's growth. Principal, actively invested.
We have just seen the biggest one-day move on the Nikkei 225 since 1987.
It was clearly a bad day for stocks.
A single summertime decision by Japan's central bank ended up triggering a panic.
The stampede was so big that the meltdown just exploded in a massive pile of losses for everyone.
And at the heart of all this, the Japanese yen and a massive global unwinding of the so-called carry trade. Now that the dust has settled, everyone from New York hedge fund managers and investors to Japanese business owners is left with an urgent question. Do we need to rethink the role of the yen in the global economy? The yen is one of the most important currencies in the world. In the $7.5 trillion a day currency market, it's the third most traded, behind only the US dollar and the euro.
Every single day, more than $1 trillion worth of yen exchanges hands.
One of the main reasons why it's so heavily traded is because you can borrow yen cheaply and put it to work elsewhere. That's because interest rates in Japan are so low thanks to what's been a pretty sluggish economy over the past few decades. After booming in the 1980s, a combination of deflation, rising debt, and an aging population has suppressed growth in Japan. So the central bank